You ever have one of those mornings where you step out of a cab, boots still caked in desert dust, and realize your whole life's been sold while you were out fighting a war? Yeah, welcome home, soldier. The neighbors froze mid-sip when I swung that taxi door open. The sold sign on my lawn flapped in the breeze, making a mockery out of everything I thought I'd come back to. Karen Delaney, HOA president and queen bee of Ridgewood Estates, dropped her garden hose when she saw me like she'd seen a ghost come home to collect old debts. That's how it started, just me, my duffel bag, and a front porch that suddenly didn't recognize me anymore. I guess I looked even more lost than I felt. New shutters, new porch furniture, front door painted that cheap, sterile beige they use in hospital wings. The flag I'd hung before deployment gone. In its place, a luxury living sticker, and the kind of emptiness you can't really describe until you see your home turned into someone else's dream. 2 years ago, I left that driveway with a handshake from Sheriff Brooks and a promise that the HOA would keep an eye out. Guess they watched a little too closely. As the cab rolled away, the curtain parade started, neighbors peeking, whispering. In Ridgewood, news spreads faster than brush fire. By the time I reached my own gate, folks had formed a semicircle like they were waiting for the verdict in a courtroom drama. Karen tried to smile, lipstick trembling. Ethan, my goodness, we were told. You didn't make it, she said. Her voice sounded rehearsed. Guess someone jumped the gun, I told her, and that cracked the shell right there. She fumbled for her clipboard, babbling about paperwork mix-ups and government confusion, but her story fell apart when I asked who signed the sale authorization. Her face darkened. She ushered me to the HOA clubhouse, talking fast, wanting privacy. The place smelled like lemon polish and panic. Her own photos on every wall, her shaking hands with city council, cutting ribbons, playing philanthropist. Coffee she offered. You must be jet-lagged. I smiled, tired as hell. 36 hours awake, Karen. Coffee's not going to fix what you sold. She set the pot down so fast the lid popped off. Then she started in on some nonsense about a Defense Department notice and my name on a casualty list. I cut her off. And you verified that with who exactly? Because my sister never got that call. I could see the gears grinding. She hadn't expected that. Emily, my sister, always had a nose for trouble. I knew Karen's fake condolence visit must have bounced right off her suspicion. Karen kept babbling, processing errors, conflicting forms, whatever. I let silence do the talking. Eventually she cracked. It wasn't personal. The community needed the sale. Abandoned property drags down value. That's boardroom talk. Or your developer buddy just needed another house to flip. She went stone cold. When I walked outside, the neighbors crowded me. One old man whispered, Karen told us there was a memorial at City Hall. Said your unit never made it home. I glanced at my old porch. A new family stood inside, looking scared to open the door. I didn't blame them. They'd bought it fair and square, at least on paper. I just nodded and walked away. This wasn't about rage. Rage burns out. Proof lasts. I spent that night in a cheap motel at the edge of town, scrolling through county records on a stiff laptop, hands still raw from overseas. One document led to another: property transfers, insurance claims, HOA minutes with my name stamped deceased. I laughed, just a dry, tired sound. Somewhere in that mess, I found the name Mark Jennings, a developer with a record of flipping military homes. Pattern was too neat. Karen hadn't just betrayed me. She'd built a whole business out of betrayal. At dawn, I called Sheriff Brooks. He was the only guy who'd ever treated me like more than a sad vet story. They sold your house, he said, voice tightening. Not just mine, I said. Think she's running a graveyard economy. He didn't laugh. Give me 2 hours, we'll start digging. By the time the sun burned the last fog off Ridgewood, Karen was pacing her kitchen, whispering into her phone about containment and legal exposure. She had no idea I'd already copied every file, sent backups to Emily, locked them in storage, or that Brooks was on his way, or that every neighbor she'd ever bullied was now gossiping about the soldier who came back from the dead. I stood by the road and watched the morning parade of cars. The new owner's kid waved at me from the porch, no idea what storm was coming. I waved back. "Don't worry, kid. I'm not here to take the house. I'm here to take the truth back." The next day, Karen put on her best face and hosted a community tribute breakfast. Banners honoring our fallen hero. Real subtle. I stood in the back wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, listening as she gave a tearful speech about my sacrifice. Used photos from my Facebook sad music, even claimed she donated to the Military Relief Fund. All PR. There beside her was Mark Jennings, slick hair, fake smile, talking about redevelopment opportunities. Folks didn't notice, but I did. I'd met men like him overseas, the kind who profit off someone else's service. After that circus, I went straight to the developer's office. The receptionist blanched when I said my name. She handed me a deed to my house signed with my name except with a middle initial I never use. It was a forgery, not even a good one. The notary was an HOA member who'd moved to Florida a year ago. I took copies, calm as a bomb that already knows how this battle ends. That evening, I met Brooks at a diner outside town. He read the paperwork, brow furrowing. "There's no military confirmation letter here," he said. "Just HOA approval." I nodded. "She wrote her own authority. Trace every name, every sale. If she did it to me, she's done it to others." Brooks grunted, rubbing his jaw. "You think Jennings is in on it?" "She's the face, he's the money," I said. That night I recorded Karen through the clubhouse window talking to Mark on the phone, panicked, hissing, "Don't tell me he's back. That's impossible." It was all the evidence I needed. The next morning, county records showed 3 other military names marked deceased homes sold through some emergency reassignment clause that referenced an ordinance that didn't even exist. I wasn't the only one. That night, Karen called an emergency HOA meeting. Her email called it a community restoration discussion. She'd forgotten to kick me off the mailing list. I sat in the back hat, pulled low. Karen talked about unauthorized returns. That was her new way of describing me being alive. "We must protect the neighborhood's reputation," she said. Then her phone buzzed. She froze, continued. I stood slow and steady. "Since you're talking reputation, maybe explain why you told the county I was dead." The room erupted. She blamed paperwork. I handed the deed to Brooks, who'd just slipped in. His badge glinted in the light. Funny thing about misunderstandings, he said they usually stop when lawyers get involved. When that meeting dissolved into chaos, Karen burned rubber out of the lot. Brooks locked up beside me. "You've stirred up a hornet's nest," he warned. "She'll double down before she cracks." I watched her taillights vanish. "Let her," I said. "The truth's already marching." The next day I combed through more records at the county office, finding 3 more soldiers: Sergeant Reyes, Corporal Dorsey, Lieutenant Mendez, all marked deceased. All their homes sold with forged signatures and fake notary stamps. Brooks met me outside, a folder in his hand. "You were right," he said. "State attorneys got similar complaints. Military homes, HOA scams, same developer, same inside job." One night I caught Karen and Mark Jennings in her kitchen, through the fence, her waving files, him saying, "We need to discredit him before he talks." People trust the HOA more than some PTSD vet chasing ghosts. I recorded it all. That was enough for a warrant. By afternoon, investigators raided the HOA office. Karen showed up mid-search, screaming about overreach. The officers ignored her as they hauled boxes out. Neighbors watched from their lawns, no more fear, just curiosity and relief. At the next HOA meeting, I waited for the moment. Karen started her slideshow, Ridgewood Redevelopment Plan Deceased Property Recovery Initiative. I stood up. "Mind explaining that?" She sputtered. I spread copies of the forgeries on the table. Brooks stepped in. Then I clicked the projector photo of her and Mark at the tribute breakfast shaking hands under a fallen hero's banner. You used soldiers' names for profit, I said. Faked deaths, sold homes, hosted potlucks about patriotism. Brooks played the recording. Karen's own voice. Don't tell me he's back. That's impossible. The room went silent, then erupted. Karen's voice broke. You don't understand. I did this to protect property values. Brooks shook his head. You mean your own value? When the dust settled, Brooks handed me an official subpoena. It's the start, he said. No, I replied. It's the middle. The start was when she sold my house. The days that followed were a blur. Lawsuits, counterfilings, interviews. Other victims came forward. The Ridgewood scandal hit the news. I met Sergeant Reyes in a nearby town. We compared documents, both laughing at the identical fake signatures. Brooks just shook his head. She didn't even bother changing templates. Eventually, Jennings tried to disappear late-night private airstrip duffel bags full of forged deeds and cash. Brooks' deputies and I caught him before he could run. Evening, Mark Wan said, stepping into the light. He tried blaming Karen. It was her plan, I just signed the papers. But the duffel bags told the truth. Jennings confessed to everything, fake deaths, dummy corporations' payoffs. Federal investigators took over. Karen's house was searched, files seized. The news ran images of her being led out in handcuffs. Neighbors watched from porches, some angry, some relieved. The HOA was dissolved, its money used to form a new voluntary neighborhood association. Ridgewood changed overnight. The fences felt less like walls and more like connections. When the trial came, the courthouse was packed. Judge Ramirez called the room to order. I took the stand steady. I found a stranger living in my house. My name marked as deceased. A sold sign on the lawn. I explained how I dug up the fraud. This wasn't a mistake. It was a business plan. The jury listened, eyes wide. When Brooks played the recording of Karen's confession, the silence felt like thunder. Guilty on all counts. Neighbors shook my hand. Brooks said, You gave everyone a reason to stop being scared. Karen got 7 years, no parole for the first 3. Jennings a little less for rolling on his partner. But for me, it wasn't about revenge. It was about making things right, not just for me, but for every soldier whose name had been used like a pawn. When I stepped onto my porch, the sheriff handed me back my old flag. The crowd clapped quietly. The young couple who'd been living there, Dylan and Marissa, helped me repaint the porch, fix the mailbox. I let them stay until their new place was ready. You were victims too, I said. They left a note. This house feels like it's breathing again. Ridgewood felt alive again, kids riding bikes, neighbors laughing, the clubhouse, now a real community center. I never asked to be a hero. I just wanted a home. But sometimes you've got to fight 2 wars to finally get there. On the night the new sign went up, Welcome to Ridgewood, a free community, I traced my fingers over the names, veterans and neighbors alike, and thought, it's not about one man's battle, it's about all of us. So here's my question. How do you think justice should work when the enemy doesn't wear a uniform but a name tag and a smile? Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever fought a battle at home you never saw coming? Share your story. Because home isn't just a place. It's the people willing to fight for it. And if you believe there's still good worth fighting for, go ahead, hit subscribe. Because no one wins these wars alone.